Will please come to an order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Director Herndon?
Present.
Director Jackson?
Present.
Director Leonard?
Present.
Director Zombor?
Present.
And Chair Garcia.
Present.
That's 5 members present.
The chair will now ask the secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The chair invites any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so, and asks that those who do not wish to participate to please remain silent during the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted from the Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public access participation as possible, this meeting is also being broadcast via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799. Nuevamente, 312-626-6799. E introduzca el número de reunión 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Gracias.
For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. We have no virtual speakers registered. Members in the audience who wish to speak should please fill out a speaker slip and bring it to our secretary, Ms. Koala. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. For the sake of fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak, the chair reserves the right to limit the length of time allowed to one speaker. Written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Send this testimony to the Board of Governance to P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax it to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Just as a reminder, Robert Rules of Order dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Also, any questions or requests, including those from the public, committee members, or the administration, are to be directed towards the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. For the safety of all and to ensure good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassing or intimidating words or actions will immediately be asked to cease. If such behavior continues, a recess will be called and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, the individual will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. Also, no one other than members of the board, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the meetings, agendas, and minutes page of the MPS website. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item 1 is action on monthly personnel matters, action on classified personnel transactions, action on certificated appointments, action on leaves of absence, report on resignations and retirements, and the affirmative action report. The recommendation is that the board approve the promotions, appointments, and leaves as listed in the attachments to the item to be effective upon approval by the board.
Would the administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. We're asking for your approval of the monthly personnel and reporting items before you. Adria Matalini, Chief Human Resources Officer, is with me this evening, and we're prepared to answer any questions that you may have in regards to this item. Thank you.
All right, do any committee members wish to make comments or have any questions? No? All right, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, there were no requests to speak on this item.
All right. What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Leonard.
So I move approval on the action on all monthly personnel matters.
Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard to approve the administration's recommendations, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 2, action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment LTE contracts exceeding 60 days. The recommendation is that the board approve the promotions, appointments, leaves, and limited term employment contracts as listed in the attachments to this item to be effective upon approval by the board.
Would the administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, we're requesting your approval of this item as it outlines this month's administrative appointments, promotions, reclassifications, salary adjustments, and LTE contracts. I have with me Adria Maddalini, Chief Human Resources Officer, to outline this item, and after which we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions you may have. Adria.
Thank you. Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Adria Maddalini, Chief Human Resources Officer. This is our standard monthly item. The only thing that I wanted to draw to your attention, there's a last-minute correction on one of the LTEs. There was a clerical error on the dollar amount that the person was earning. So that's the one correction that we made. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, there are no requests to speak on this item.
All right, do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? No? All right, then what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Jackson.
Yes, I make a motion that we receive the action on recommended administrative appointments and promotions.
All right, is there any further discussion? All right, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Jackson to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
All right, so before we proceed to the next item, on behalf of the board, I would like to congratulate all of the candidates listed in the previous 2 items. You are now one step closer to hire, promotion, or transfer. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 3, action on monthly finance matters, authorization to make purchases, report on change orders in excess of $25,000, acceptance of the report on revenues and expenses, monthly expenditure control report, report on budget transfers, report on contracts under $50,000 and their cumulative totals, and the report on monthly grant awards, and the acceptance of donations. The recommendation is that the board 1, authorize the purchases, and 2, accept the donations as listed in the attachments with appropriate acknowledgement to be made on behalf of the board.
Would the administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, this evening we're asking for your approval on the monthly finance matters before you. Janina Domchek, Director of Procurement and Risk Management, is with me this evening, and together we can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask any questions? All right, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, there were no requests to speak on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Jackson. Oh, Director.
That's okay, I
Madam
got it.
Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of administration.
Thank you. All right, that was on President Herndon. All right, is there any further discussion? Oh, Mr. Chason.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Matt Chason, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. I wanted to take a moment to thank the administration's Office of Finance. You'll notice that the budget transfers consistent with the moving of the audit services area is reflected here. So I just wanted to give them a shout out for that. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, any other discussion? All right, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Herndon to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zambor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 4, action on the award of exception to bid contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the exception to bid contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Would the administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, we're asking for your approval of this month's exception to bid contracts. I have Janine as well as Martha here with me this evening, and we can answer any questions that you may have.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we had no request to speak on this item.
All right, what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Jackson.
Yes. I move that we accept the action on the award of the bid contracts.
All right, is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Jackson to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zambor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 5, action on the award of professional services contracts. The administration recommends that the board authorize the professional services contracts related to transportation as set forth in the attachments, and the Office of Board Governance recommends that the board authorize the professional services contract related to lobbying services as set forth in the attachments.
Would the administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, this evening, we're asking for your approval on the professional services contracts before you. Janina Domchek, Director of Procurement and Risk Management, is here with me, along with David Fafarik, who's here with me, and we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have.
Do committee members wish to make any comments or ask questions? No questions. All right, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, there were no requests to speak on this item.
All right. So then what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? All right, Director Leonard.
I move that we accept the action, the recommendations of the administration on this item.
All right, is there any further discussion? All right, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard to approve the the recommendations of the administration, can I clarify? Are you also looking for approval of the recommendation of the Office of Board Governance?
Director Leonard?
Do I need to?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, please. Okay, so the motion by Director Leonard is to approve the recommendations of the administration and the Office of Board Governance. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zambor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 6, action on monthly facilities matters. FMS award of construction and professional services contracts, material purchase, exception to bid, contract modification, and acceptance of the air quality report. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached construction and professional services contracts, the material purchase, the exception to bid, the contract modification, and accept the air quality report.
Would the administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, we are asking for your approval. This month's facilities matters relate to awards of professional service contracts, materials purchased, exception to bid contracts, contract modifications, and the air quality report. Sean Kane, Senior Director of Facilities and Maintenance Services, is with me this evening to report out on this item. Following his presentation, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Sean?
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Posley. Good evening, Chair Garcia, members of the committee. Sean Kane, Senior Director for Facilities Maintenance Services. If there were any questions that's related to the recommendation letter, I will follow up with that, but I will proceed ahead with the air quality updates. As mentioned in the previous report, DFMS continues to work with their 4 current integrated project delivery contractors, IPD teams for short. They're approved in July of 2021. Our DFMS team has been working with our contracted owners representative, Concord Group, and I asked them to provide me a summary of activities through February of 2024. After IPD contractors identified project goals and critical objectives during the later part of 2021, scopes related to air quality were defined. Contracts were issued based on IPD estimates within their school assignments. The IPD teams, the owner's representative, the DFMS monthly meetings to discuss budget, schedule, and address any outstanding concerns. The IPD teams finished the design and the construction documents to solicit formal and competitive bids for ESSER2 projects from their subcontractors conforming to the requirements in Board Policy 3.09. Our finalized ESSER2 project budget has received all bids related to testing and balancing, essentially a ventilation audit, water bottle stations, flooring, outdoor classrooms, bug screens, and mechanical projects. We have been utilizing project contingency to address cost overruns with the unpredictable market and additional deferred maintenance projects that have moved forward. Unfortunately, we have still seen construction costs run up to 15 to 20% over where costs were before the pandemic. We had to balance funds of what scope related to capital improvements can be done with ESSER2 funds, and some improvements may have to be absorbed into ESSER3 projects. All air quality scopes related to ESSER2 are completed. Efforts to get testing and balancing done on projects is wrapped up. All 530 new water bottle stations have been installed. Flooring projects have been completed, which includes over 1.5 million square feet of material. For outdoor classrooms, all have been completed with the exception of some minor punch list items. A few bug screen projects were added and getting underway. As I mentioned, the ESSER2 program has finished up, and there was an extremely lift for many. As we all know, the work is not done, and we're moving on to the next round of ESSER3. That concludes the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, and congratulations on all of the work that has been done. I know the scale has been enormous for, just your department specifically to take on. So just know that on behalf of the board, thank you to the team that has made such progress considering the restraints in supply chain and all of that. So thank you. All right, do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Zambor and then Director Jackson.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Could the administration talk a little bit more about the contract for the long-range facilities master planning services? I see the term runs through January 30th of 2025. Can you just talk a little bit about when we might get an update on that work with that contract?
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Zomber, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director for Facilities and Maintenance Services. The date that we do have on there is trying to close out the project at that time. We are going to be, with the contract moving forward, we've already had some conversations. We plan on meeting with the team that they have assembled, not only working with us, there's going to be working with a lot of department heads, stakeholders, very important, students, parents, staff. So a lot of the stuff that we're trying to pull together is just getting stuff to them, just so they have the information and data to start working with us. The goal is to have something a little more finalized once they do the first analysis of the information they have. I'd say that's towards the end of May, early June. And as the summer progresses, there's going to be continual communication going on between all parties. But the goal is to have, I would say, a report with recommendations, I'd say towards the beginning of October. But again, there's things through December in case there's more conversations that need to be had and some adjustments.
Any follow-up, Directors on board? Director Jackson?
Oh, yeah, just to reiterate what, Director Garcia said, thank you. I understand, man, more than anybody, how tedious this job is. So appreciate just the timelines on things getting done. The walkthroughs at my school as well this past summer. So I understand and I appreciate that as well, just the project management piece of it all. So job well done.
Excellent. Do we have any members of the public that wish to make any comments?
Madam Chair, we had no request to speak on this item. I would also like to point out that it wasn't part of the recommendation, but relative to the purchase order and contracts, Administrative Policy 3.09, Parent 9, Parent E will need to be waived. So if members could factor that into your motion making.
Excellent. What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Jackson.
I move that we accept the recommendation from administration with, can you repeat that number again?
Waiving Administrative Policy 3.09, Parent 9, Parent E.
Yeah, waiving that policy right there.
Excellent. All right, is there any further discussion? All right, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Jackson to waive Administrative Policy 3.09, Parent 9, Parent E, and approve the administration's recommendations. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 7, action on a request to approve the Fourth Amendment to modify the lease agreement with Carmen High School of Science and Technology at the Northwest Secondary School Building located at 5496 North 72nd Street. The recommendation is that the board approve the Fourth Amendment to the lease agreement with Carmen High School of Science and Technology.
Would administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, this evening, we are asking your approval of this item before you as it pertains to the Fourth Amendment to modify the lease agreement with Carmen High School Northwest Secondary School. I have with me Sean Kane, Director of Facilities and Maintenance Services, to review this item, and following this, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have in regards to this item. Sean.
Thank you, Dr. Posley, Director Garcia, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director for Facilities and Maintenance Services. The Fourth Amendment is related to actually an amendment that was approved back in September by the board. And what originally happened is that into the school year, Carmen wanted to change the square footage. They were kind of swapping a certain amount of rooms that they were using. It was about 3 rooms. They wanted to relocate from the first floor to the second floor. And it did add some square footage. So that was actually the amendment that was approved. During that time, working with their administration, trying to get the lease amendment executed, they had a little bit of a change of leadership at the moment. And to be quite honest, the staff that was working on thinking moving forward was not aware that they wanted to stay in the square footage. So during those conversations, having it with the upcoming leadership and the one that's outgoing, they felt it was best to just stay in the square footage that they were currently in and not move. I've actually stopped out there and confirmed that they're still within their spaces. And since we did not have an executed lease agreement working with the city attorney's office, we felt, we're just kind of going back to the original basis of the previous agreement, but just for insurance purposes, et cetera, to get it put in the right place.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the committee that wish to make comments or ask questions? President Herndon.
Thank you very much. I'm asking questions on section number 3 in this item, but it also covers one of the other lease agreements as well, and that is why are we moving to absorb the cost of recycling and trash removal?
Administration.
Chair Garcia, Director Herndon, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director of Facilities Maintenance Services. That was one of the typical changes that we've been trying to make in for consistency purposes. If you've seen, like in previous ones, we had that. So we didn't have the opportunity to include that originally at the one time, but that language was already included as part of just stating the fact that we do pay for the recycling and trash removal, just like all the other leases and all our regular school sites. So I just want to make sure that language is included, because again, it was back in September, but since we didn't execute that one, I just want to make sure it was in writing.
Any follow-up?
Yes, my question though is why? Because not only with this one, there's another one, I think it's the next item as well. That consistently hasn't been the case in the past. So I was wondering if there was a real purpose for the district doing that.
Administration.
Chair Garcia, Director Herndon, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director for Facilities and Maintenance Services. As part of, regardless if it's a lease site or a regular school site, as part of your utility costs, we cover everything from gas, electricity, trash removal, recycling, sewer, snow removal, et cetera. So that originally, that language probably should have been in way back when we had the lease agreement. So as we're moving forward with these lease amendments, I've been making sure that we're consistent and making sure that language has been put in.
Any
Okay.
follow-up?
Were we providing those services in spite of the fact that this was not in the contract?
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Herndon, Sean Kane, Senior Director of Facilities Maintenance Services, yes, that is true.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other committee members that had questions? Director Zambor?
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Would the administration be able to comment on, so for year 4 and year 5, I'm just trying to make sure I'm calculating this correctly. So they're actually going to be paying less than the last amendment. Is that correct for year 4 and year 5?
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Zomber, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities Maintenance Services, no, that's, each year we've been actually increasing this 2%. So they've had a 5-year lease agreement, and it's continuing and follows through with the school charter contract. So the way that we have that one set up, that it goes up every year.
Any follow-up?
Yeah, so the very first lease agreement, it looked like year 4 and year 5, they would have been at $727,400, and now we're at $727,469. So to me, that looks like $24,000 less. Is that because the square footage is less than the original contract, or just over time have we decreased their lease?
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Zomber, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services. If you look at, when we originally had it for the recent one, each year it's gone up. I mean, the one year we're looking to do, $699,211. Then the next year was $713,205, and then next year was $727,469. So there was an increase. It's just a matter of the square footage, since they did not move and get out of the space like we did for September. As of September, we didn't even have a fully executed lease amendment. I'm just trying to get to back where we need to be, but no, there have been increases.
Any follow-up?
Do you know how much of the percent of the building that's not being utilized by them right now, or like roughly the square footage,
Administration?
number of rooms?
Director Garcia, Director Zomber, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services. Pretty much I want to say it's about 20% of the building that they're not using. And if you look at the one exhibit that's part of this, it identifies where the areas where square footage is being utilized and the areas that are not.
Any follow-up?
Not right now, thank you.
All right. Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, there are no speaker requests for this item.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the committee in regards to this item? Director Zambor?
I do have one more question, just to clarify. So what is the current lease rate that they're paying? And then what is the proposed lease rate? I just want to be really clear.
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Zomber, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services. Right now we have it conforming exactly back what we had prior, at September at that rate. So right now for the year of July of 2023 through June of 2024, it's $699,211. From the following year, from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, it's $713,205. July 1st through 2025 through 2026 of June 30th will be $727,469.
Any follow-up, Director Zambor?
No, thank you.
Okay, so then what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Leonard?
So So I move that we accept the Fourth Amendment proposed for the Carmen lease.
All right, is there any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard to approve the Fourth Amendment to the lease agreement with Carmen High School of Science and Technology, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 8, action on a request to approve the Fourth Amendment to extend the lease agreement with ASADA at the 35th Street building located at 3517 West Cortlandt Avenue. The recommendation is that the board approve the Fourth Amendment to the lease agreement with ASADA.
Would administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, this evening we're asking your approval on the item before you as it pertains to the Fourth Amendment for ASADA. I have with me Sean Kane, Senior Director of Facilities and Maintenance Services, to review this item. Following his review, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Sean?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services. This is the Fourth Amendment to SADA. They're using the same square footage, and it's for another 3-year amendment term, and it coincides with their school charter that was up for approval at the SASE meeting.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? All right, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we had no request to speak on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Jackson? Oh, President Herndon, sorry.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendations of administration on this item.
Is there any further discussion? All right, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Herndon to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 9, action on a request to approve the Sixth Amendment to the lease agreement with Banner Day Learning Corp. At the 35th Street School property located at 3517 West Cortlandt Avenue. The recommendation is that the board approve the Sixth Amendment to the lease agreement with Banner Day Learning Corp.
Would administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, this evening we're asking for your approval on the items before you as it pertains to the Sixth Amendment to the lease agreement with Banner Day Learning Corp. I have with me Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services. He will walk us through this item. Sean?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services. This is the Sixth Amendment for Banner that's utilizing the 35th Street School. That's within the same facility as ASADA. That is a 1-year amendment that aligns with, as I mentioned before, a partnership contract like ASADA. So it's for another year utilizing the same square footage.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Jackson.
I move that we accept the recommendation from administration with the SADA being approved for another year. Banner.
Is there any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Jackson to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 10, action on a request to terminate a lease with Milwaukee Excellence Charter School at McNair School Building located at 4950 North 24th Street. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached termination of the lease agreement with Milwaukee Excellence Charter at the McNair School Building.
Would administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, this evening, we're asking for your approval on the item before you as it pertains to the termination of the lease agreement with Milwaukee Excellent Charter School located at 4950 North 24th Street. I have with me Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services, and Dr. Catrice Cotton, Chief of Office of School Administration. And after Sean present this item, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Sean.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities Maintenance Services. This is a typical termination for a lease agreement that we have in Milwaukee Excellence. It's at the McNair facility, and right now they would be vacating at June 30th. And it's, if there's any need for a walkthrough or anything with any of the board directors to take a look at the facility, we have no problem walking through with you guys as well.
Thank you. Do we have any committee members that wish to make comments or ask questions? Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Leonard.
So I move that we accept the administration's recommendation to terminate the lease for the Milwaukee Excellence Charter School.
Is there any further discussion? Will Secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon. Aye. Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last item on tonight's agenda.
There being no further business before the committee, this meeting is adjourned.